Hello, and welcome to this, what we call it, Fire and Ice podcast about the new Dynasty League, the Armchair Football League, or AFL for short. I'm your co-host and co-commissioner, Mark Partridge. I'm joined with my co-host and co-commissioner, Chris Adamson. How are you?
Hello, yeah, good to see you. Excited for this Dynasty League to finally be get up and running. Obviously, our second attempt at trying to get the Dynasty League going after kind of a regression last year. Sorry to see leave both the Jacksonville Donks and Jack's team, which I can't remember the name for without being rude. I can't remember what it was called.
I can't remember what it.
For help.
No, it was something to do with Jacksonville, wasn't it?
It was.
Not sure. Sorry, Jack.
Can't remember. But sorry to see them leave, but also very excited for the new additions of Ollie and Tim coming on board. Again, poor preparation from myself, but I'm trying to look up here quickly what their teams are called.
Tim's not got a name, as far as I saw, and I think Ollie's something to do with Falcons.
Backfield penetration.
Okay. Naughty name, but all right.
So yeah, welcome to those guys, and excited to get this moving and get talking about a bit more NFL again during this off season.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the Dynasty. Obviously, that's where we thought it was going, and it sort of wasn't going that way a few weeks ago. Now we've got it going to the Dynasty, so let's draw a line on that, I guess, and let's move forward into talking about Dynasty and AFL. This is the first podcast of many, we hope. We're also hoping that you might be able to see us at home. We're hoping, fingers crossed, we're using a new platform here, not using Teams. And maybe throughout the year we'll see a bit more production value. Who knows? Right, first thing I wanted to talk about was sort of the takeaways from you, Chris, on the NFL draft that obviously started round one last Thursday and moved on to the weekends. Anything that sort of stands out to you round one and further? I guess talking about Dynasty, I'm not really worried about the defensive players, more of the offensive players, and maybe we'll start on the QBs, because obviously that was what happened at the top of the round one.
That was good fun, wasn't it? I think there was a few of us have had different kind of ideas, as we all do, for who the top QBs were. Obviously, all of us had Bryce Young as going first, and I think that was a no-brainer. But the whole CJ Stroud thing, Anthony Richardson, Levis, all those things were quite interesting. Interesting people going into the draft and interesting resolutions. I have to say I did have Levis go in the top 10. I was surprised to see him drop all the way. Although it's one of those, once certain teams passed up on them, they're going long.
Yeah.
It was just that really surprised me. I wasn't surprised in the slightest. I actually had 1, 2, 3 correct in the draft for my mock, because not to the right teams, obviously, but the players in the right slots.
Yeah.
Texans went and got the best defensive player. Won't talk about it now, obviously if it's fancy, but that was a no-brainer going that high. Best player available in the draft for me, outside of potentially Bryce Young. And that CJ Stroud stuff, that cognitive test, that was bullshit, wasn't it?
It's weird, wasn't it? Yeah, it was weird.
Let's watch them play football.
I know, yeah. Very strange.
It's kind of we've joked on it before, but it's especially for say us two. Like, you're a guy who loves your statistics. You'll look at the numbers and those sorts of things. I'm somebody who'll solely watch the football and kind of go with kind of what my gut is. And when I'm hearing all this crap on CJ Stroud after all the stuff that I've watched since granted November, because Falcons were pretty much out of it by that point, and I've kind of then started getting my head into next season, and I'm watching like this guy's incredible. He's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden was getting loads of grief, so that really surprised me. And then the Anthony Richardson one, I think that's an exciting player to get. That's a really exciting player to get for fantasy.
Yeah. I had a look at Richardson earlier, and just comparing the top 3 QBs, so Young, Stroud, Richardson. Richardson's 6'4", so he's absolutely massive.
He's a tank.
He's 111 kg, and I'm going to compare this
and he moves
to Stroud, 6'3", so pretty similar height, but he's 98 kg. That's absolutely immense. And how fast he is as well.
Oh, he's mobile.
He's exciting.
One of my favourite things that I've read was the upgrade from that Colts have had, going from Matt Ryan's mobility
Yeah.
to Anthony Richardson's mobility.
Yeah, and Philip Rivers
in 1
beforehand
year.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah, it's outstanding. But yeah, I think from a Colts perspective, I think that's a really exciting player to have. I would have a lot of concerns. I mean, he played 13 games at college.
yeah, he didn't do a lot. Yeah,
That would worry me a lot. His completion percentage isn't great. There is conversation that the people around him were just garbage, so there is a piece that you could add on that. But yes, brilliant, fantastic combine, love all that. But again, the opposite of CJ Stroud, haven't seen it on tape. I think he had one good game against
LSU. He had a good game against.
Yes.
He scored like an 85-yard touchdown or something, didn't he? He ran off. Did sort of like a Lamar Jackson on him.
But outside of that, kind of a lot of it's been hit and miss, and mostly miss in games. Now he's had a phenomenal combine. Be a really exciting project to have. Does he start straight away for Colts?
No, I don't see that. They got Minshew, haven't they? So yeah, they're going to start Minshew.
So
I would have thought.
Stays
you know what happens?
For what? For how long? 6 games?
Yeah. You know what happens with these things is they start out bad. The fans start getting edgy, like they did with Justin Fields, like they did with Trey Lance, and they start calling for the coach's head, and they go, "All right, we've got to stick him in." So I can see that probably 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, so I think for the Colts it's really exciting, but I think mainly for fantasy that's a really cool opposition, like an idea there. I'm going to be really interested to see who pulls the trigger on that player and when they pull the trigger on him, because the upside of him is immense. It is absolutely immense, but also he is and has the potential to be an absolute bust.
He could be garbage. His arm could be absolutely terrible, and all he is a running QB. So.
Yeah. Now, in theory, they had a phenomenal line. What was it in 21? Now they had one of the best lines in football.
Yeah.
And then 22, they seemingly didn't even talk to each other. It was horrendous. So I guess it'll be a question mark over what that line looks like. But in theory, you should be able to get a lot of space and movement in there. Jonathan Taylor's obviously going to be a risk in there still, so the defensive players are going to be looking out for him. So in theory, he's got a lot of opportunity to slot straight in and kind of be decent from a fantasy proposition. A bit like Justin Fields was last year.
Yeah.
He wasn't actually great for the Bears, but he was phenomenal for a fantasy proposition.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see what goes with him, where he goes, especially being a startup Dynasty League. Is someone taking him in the first round?
It's got to be brave.
He's going in the second.
Yeah.
Not gonna be, if you pass him, he's going in the second.
Yeah,
That's just happening.
I think all these rookie QBs should go 2, 3. Hooker and Levis, I would have thought, but
potentially it's really exciting. Then you bring in obviously my boy. You bring in the Falcons and take in the
Bijan's round 1, isn't he?
Yeah, a bit of a risk on. I love the pick. I love the pick for a bums on seats watching them play. That's phenomenal. I like it from a fantasy option because I've said to you once before, Arthur Smith just runs the ball. That's all he wants to do is just run and pound the ball. From an actual team perspective, I hate it. Like I don't like it. Would have loved a corner. Would have loved one of the top edges. I was going nuts, as you know, when I called it. I said Jalen Carter wasn't going to go early. I said that people were worried about his kind of mindset and how we've allowed Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith to end up on the Eagles is ridiculous.
Crazy. It was crazy.
It's a dogs team. It's a dogs team playing for fun.
Yeah. And that Georgia defense was incredible.
Insane.
I mean, that's why they went back to back, winning the championship. But.
Exactly. So I'm really quite disappointed that they didn't take him from a personal perspective. But from talking fantasy here, he's a really exciting pick for anyone as well, isn't he? Atlanta are going to run the ball. Okay, you've got a bit of competition there with Tyler Algier, but he was picked up in the 5th, I think Algier was.
Yeah.
So they've got no care to him really. Whereas Bijan's going to be the guy, and from what I've read a lot about, he's basically a receiver.
Yeah, he catches the ball really well.
Yeah,
he did it in college. Really good receiver. Yeah, really exciting for the Falcons, but for Algier, it's a worry for him now, isn't it? If you're picking him up.
Yeah, well, I mean, what we were doing we were doing 3 keepers, weren't we, in the old league? I know we're not talking about that now, but I think Dan had Algier, didn't he? And it was kind of a case of you would have been quite excited to kind of have him. Now it's like there's no value in him at all. So that's quite exciting. And then I guess the interesting bit is the run of receivers that we had go.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah. You went.
I'm hearing a lot of conflicting things. How are you feeling about that? Because I'm hearing a lot of stuff of kind of, this is actually a weak receiver class. He's probably the best of the bunch, but actually a weak receiver class. However, the coach at Ohio State's come out and said he was the best of the lot of the guys that he had there from the year before as well.
Yeah, you never really know, I think. They said it was a weak draft class last year, and you had sort of Olave come out and Drake London, decent receivers. I think we've probably been spoiled over the last few years. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Devonta Smith, all coming through, who are like top receivers. So comparing these guys to them, it's probably like, yeah, they're not that great. But I think it's quite deep. Going into round 3 and round 2, you had a lot of wide receivers going. But yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigba is the one who everyone's talking about. But I really like that Jordan Addison. I think he's really tasty. Went to Vikings at 23. Justin Jefferson's going to take all the marking, isn't he? And then Addison's just going to probably be eaten up, maybe. So it's going to be interesting.
Right. From a fantasy perspective, I think Jordan Addison is potentially my favourite of the rookies that got taken in the first round. The situation he's in is what I like. I really like his situation. And he's pretty fast from what I've seen. Looking at his numbers, you're normally better at those sorts of things than me, but he looks pretty tasty. The guy who I do like, where is he? I'm just going to find him on here. He went in round 3, I think. Where is he?
Jalen Hyatt, quite interesting.
Yes,
for the Giants.
Yeah,
he's a deep threat for the Giants. And obviously, the Giants wide receivers are pretty trash, so he could turn out to be a number 1 receiver there. I definitely highlighted him.
That's what's going to be exciting. I think those sorts of things. The big ones actually for me, more than anything in this draft, forget Bijan, forget the receivers. I don't know why I'm talking about this because I shouldn't. No, it's okay. We'll talk about it. It's the only bit of insight people.
Nobody's going to listen to this anyway. If you listen to this, you're getting the insight. If you don't listen to it, sorry, but it's gone.
Yeah. The tight end groupings.
Dalton Kincaid at the Bills.
And Myers.
Yeah.
Those two, Kincaid especially, good tight end. Apparently, a lot of people coming out saying the tight end group were good from this year. Those two in particular. And then, as you say, Kincaid has gone into the Bills.
Yeah.
That guy could put up some numbers.
I did see today the Bills have said that Knox and Kincaid are going to be 50-50, but I can't see that lasting, to be honest. I can't see it lasting.
To begin with. And my main hope there is, if I don't get him, which I'm hoping I do, is someone will pick him up, one of the lesser known GMs, one of the ones who are less into it, and then they get frustrated, and I throw in a cheeky little, do you want to send him my way, do you? And absolutely bumfuck him, and try and get the value. Oh, here comes my little Falcons fans coming in here now.
I did think
apologies to the chat.
On draft day, it was quite funny because obviously the Bills went above the Cowboys, thinking the Cowboys were after a tight end. And Jerry Jones has now come out and said, "Yeah, we were never going to take a tight end." So it's quite funny that the Bills did that, but they got themselves a good player there.
Do you trust what do you trust what that old prick fucking says?
Sometimes
you probably do, being a Dallas fan, but
you got to take it with a pinch of salt. You got to take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah. He's
other ones from me, obviously stuff that came out. Gibbs went to the Lions, and now Swift's off to the Eagles, which was quite interesting. Took him at 12. The Lions did.
How do you feel that Swift gets on at the Eagles?
It's a hard one, isn't it?
Good sit for
yeah, it is, but you don't know what his injury is going to be like. He was so hit and miss last year, and I was looking at some of the forums with the Lions fans, and they were like, he wasn't that great, to be honest. Everyone was saying if Swift had hit that hole, he would have been off, but he didn't see the hole.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't watch many Lions games.
You got to wonder how much like how paper thin he is, how these injuries have affected him, because what did I have him? I had him in 21, and then again in 22, and he must have played no more than 10 games for me in both two seasons. and then he comes back off the injuries, and he's kind of, although he maybe plays the game, he's not fully fit, and he's kind of on limited snap share. And
it's a bit weird, though.
It'll be interesting for him though. But yeah, I think the great pickup again. I think the Lions had a great draft.
Yeah, they did. They really did. They got Hendon Hooker, round 3, obviously, to back up Jared Goff, so he'll be their starter probably next year. Yeah, really interesting.
And he was a first round pick. He's only dropped so far just because of that ACL.
Yeah.
Now you never know what's coming out of injuries, and obviously Keith's great at this, giving these sorts of insights. But in modern medicine and the way they deal with them now, I would imagine he's going to come back fit, fully fine, and crack on. In theory, he's a first round talent, and they've picked him up.
He was great for Tennessee. He was really, before that injury, he was great. He was, he was on his way. So good pickup. The Lions also picked up a tight end in round 2, Sam Laporta, actually the second tight end who went. So again, probably a replacement there for Hawkinson, didn't he? Hawkinson went to the Vikings last year, so probably another good pickup for them there. The other one I thought was quite interesting was in round 2, the Seahawks took Charbonnet, running back.
Yeah.
Obviously Walker seemed to be the man last year, but now you've got Charbonnet there, so it's devaluing Walker. Is he going to take snaps? It's another interesting one for me, that.
Walker was an interesting. I mean, you had him last year, didn't you, Walker? I think he's an interesting
Matt had him
player in general. Matt had him. The upside of him was in theory really, really strong, and then obviously things didn't necessarily go the way you'd want. I think he got injured, didn't he?
A little bit, yeah, but he did come back strong.
But yeah, as soon as you're going into that kind of sharing snaps for a running back, you want a 4-down guy, don't you? That's the thing. In a league that's now ridiculously pass heavy, where are you going with running backs? The running back's going to be the most interesting at the draft.
Yeah. Who do you take as the first running back?
And do you take them early or do you take them late? Do you go for, I want to have priority and ownership over the running backs, even though I'm going to miss out on that higher tier receiver, but I'm then going to have ownership of these backs, and then the other teams have got nothing coming out of production from their backs? Or do you do the opposite, where you go real high tier, get the top receivers, but then you're going to get nothing? You're going to have such limited. Yeah, you might get that one star that breaks out that wasn't expected that you hit on, but there's going to be a lot of busts out there.
But running backs are so time limited. Players like Alvin Kamara were superstars 2 or 3 years ago, and now you're looking at them going, "Is this his last year?" He's on the way down, isn't he? I just think running backs have that such time limited period that you don't want to go all in. Even someone like Christian McCaffrey, what's he got? 2 years left at the top.
McCaffrey's been around for how long now? When was he drafted? 2016.
No, it wasn't that long ago. No, 4 years in the league, something like that. I don't think it's that long. So yeah, he's only got another couple of years. Running backs really only have elite years. What?
2017.
4 years?
I was 1 year out. 2017.
So he's had 5 seasons. So he's probably got another 2, 7, you would say, before he's back up to someone. So, yeah. That's why it's different with Dynasty, and I think people need to understand this is so different from a keeper league, and it's not even similar to redraft.
Yeah, I mean, what the most fun will be is that I think there are going to be certain people, your beefs, Ollie from the way kind of he's coming across. I think they're going to. It'll be interesting to see what way direction they go.
Yeah.
Because I think you will see people like your Tuas, like your Here to Donks, Bengla Donks. I'm expecting them to kind of go for, we're going for the win this season sort of teams. They're going to pick up probably, I would presume, more veteran sort of players, which are going to be good here right now. But the longevity for those players is obviously not as high. Whereas I would imagine, and again this is all speculation, but I'm penciling in my head people like your Ollies, Beefs, yourselves are more likely to go for younger potential upside players, which are going to be around the league for 4, 5, 6 more years.
Definitely. That's yeah. I can see that, and I can see trades happening as well. If it's round 1, and say one of those guys has a 1, 2, or 3 pick, I can see someone trading back and going, right, I'm gonna go to the back of the first round. I'll swap and get maybe a first round next year, and you'll still be able to pick up a QB because, like you say, the Dans, the Wills, they're going to pick up the Cooper Kupps, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases. and you're going to be able to get probably like Jalen Hurts, like 10, which is insane.
Yeah, potentially.
But yeah,
Potentially. And I think it's also exciting is, as kind of AP and I have discussed on the group, the two QBs coming out of college next year into the draft are meant to be absolute fucking
Caleb
superstars.
Williams, he's Heisman Trophy winner last year. He's obviously going to be favourite again to win it this year. He looks really good.
So that'll be interesting. If you've that first overall pick next year could be ridiculously valuable. Ridiculously valuable.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's exciting. Okay, well that's kind of a decent kind of overview of kind of the draft that we've had. I feel like it's probably worthwhile us moving on to look at the obviously more in depth into the league.
Yeah.
You're the stats guy and good with the numbers and whatnot. So talk us through the dynasty and kind of some of the rules that got settled on in the polls.
Yeah. So I think most people now know what the dynasty is. Obviously, you keep your players. When you draft them, you keep them. You keep all of them. We had a vote not too long ago, so I'll just go through that and how the league's going to shape up going forward. So we're going full PPR, which is the same as we had last year, which makes sense. I think that was unanimous. People wanted the kicker and the defense in. I was against it. I don't see much value for them, but people liked it. So kicker and defense are in. The roster positions, so it's pretty standard, except we've now got a super flex. So most people wanted a super flex in there. A few people were just keeping with the default. So we've not changed anything on wide receivers or tight ends. So we've got QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex, which is the same as last year, wide receiver, running back, or tight end, and then the super flex, and then your kicker and defense.
And I think it's important to probably for full transparency for the league, the votes were completely split down the middle. For people who wanted a super flex and people who wanted the basic redraft roster. So we've made a call to go with a mixture of the two. The difference being the super flex that was picked had 3 wide receivers, whereas the default position has 2 wide receivers. So we've met in the middle and gone, we keep the super flex, but we keep 2 wide receivers. So in theory, everyone should be happy.
And I've done a lot of reading online, and Superflex seems to be the consensus that it adds a lot to that quarterback position. And there's 12 in the league. You've got to play 2 quarterbacks basically every week, so that's 24 out of the 32 gone. So,
correct.
Quarterbacks are going to be so valuable.
They're a premium, but they're also still available. For people who are a bit concerned, as Mark's rightly said, there's still 32 QBs that are playing every week. That's the thing, So you will be. There are going to be QBs out there. You should be able to get 2 QBs if you're not an absolute tit at drafting, and deal with it.
Except those bye weeks, obviously, a few of the teams aren't going to be playing. That's going to be interesting. Moving on, 10 bench, which was the default. So that's not increased at all. 3 IR, so it's your injury reserve. You can just go on there with basically long-term injuries when they go on IR, so it's not all the doubtful and rubbish. 3 taxi positions. So taxi's new for Dynasty from what we did last year. For people that don't know, taxi is going to be rookies only. So if you draft a rookie, you can stick them on your taxi. They stay there for a year maximum, and if you move them off the taxi into your roster, that's it. They can't go back on the taxi. So it's for rookies. You don't know whether they're going to be any good. They might sit on the bench all year, and maybe next year they're coming through. So those are those players. Standard draft. There was 1 vote for auction, which I'm assuming was you, Chris, and everyone else was happy with the standard, which I think makes sense. Trade deadline week 11, which is default. I think last year we had week 10, so we do have an extra week on trade deadlines. There's unlimited trades as well. There's no limit on trades or anything like that. And then to decide next year's rookie draft is max potential points, which again I think makes sense. It looks at the overall team. It means people can't just drop all their starters, end up losing a load of games and do it that way. So even if you finish bottom, you might not actually get number 1.
The first pick.
So it's just how it goes, really.
I think that the other important thing to make people aware of is so when the trade deadline closes, It then stays closed, obviously, throughout the rest of the season / playoffs, and then will reopen then after the Super Bowl game.
Yeah, yeah. So then you can start doing all your thoughts into the next year's draft. You can trade your picks and everything like that. So make it quite interesting.
That's it.
Talking of playoffs, obviously it's going to be a 6-man, so it's the same as we had last year. You'll have a 6-man top tier playoff knockout. 1-2 will have a bye as they did last year, so exactly the same. The consolidation bracket as well is exactly the same. So it's just a playoff down. But again, that's not going to matter because it's going to be on max potential points anyway. A couple of stuff that people put in the other where people could sort of just type stuff in. People like the commissioner veto on trades, so we're keeping that. So both of us will have veto. So if a trade goes through and it's accepted, it'll go through straight away. But then we can actually go through and veto it, which I think worked last year because it meant trades happened a lot quicker. So if you needed a player on a Friday night, it went through a lot quicker. You didn't have to wait 2 days, which is a bit stupid.
Yeah, and it'll only be vetoed if both of us are in agreement for it. So the hope here is to kind of remove any of that slight potential bias. So we would both have to agree that this is a joke to veto it. Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, I'm not keen for vetoing anything really, unless it is stupid, ridiculous. Someone giving away their first round picks for the next 5 years for Alvin Kamara. Other things, so no changes mid-seasons unless voted on. Fair play. We changed some stuff last year. Looking back, it probably wasn't the best thing. Forfeit for last. A couple of people wanted that, which is quite fun, but agreed up front. So it's not like someone finishes last and then that's it.
Yeah, we need to work out what that's going to be. And I think that's where it's important to try and get people together. We're always going to struggle. Obviously, Sugar's in London. Tim is obviously new to the league, so it's going to be difficult to we want to obviously get him involved. Ollie obviously knows Luke anyway, so hopefully he'll kind of be keen to get involved with some bits. But I do think it's kind of a good bit to get everyone together because obviously the last year's forfeit for Luke Mann was kind of a bit weird just because it was kind of A, last minute, and then B, he hasn't actually met everyone in the league, so it's kind of like even more weird. So I think just if we can kind of, obviously we all agreed that when we met up with some of the guys from the group and at the, what was it, Falcon? It wasn't the Falcons game, was it? It was the, what game was it?
Jacksonville, wasn't it?
The Jacksonville game.
Denver.
I think just kind of, that's it. I think trying to arrange that sort of thing again is a really good shout. Can be anywhere. I know we're obviously Bristol based. A lot of the lads are obviously still Gloucester based. But yeah, trying to get us together where we can and people making the effort to come to that draft day will be a good thing to then kind of discuss the forfeits for the end of the season, rather than it kind of going through text and everyone's got different opinions and then different things come out and nothing ever gets decided. Something realistic. I know Slimbo actually messaging me kind of privately saying there's no chance you get him in a dress. I'm in agreement with him on that. I would absolutely hate that with a passion. But does that make it a good forfeit? I don't know. But that's kind of what would be good to discuss kind of all in person.
Yeah, and the forfeit for last, it's not going to be max potential points last as well. It's going to be the consolidation bracket last. So you might be last and not even have the first pick in the rookie draft. So it could be, it could be really bad. I think it's good to agree up front. I'm assuming that's Luke's probably put that comment in there, which makes sense. You don't want to get targeted if you finish last and it's like, right, we're going to do this now. Totally makes sense. Maybe just buy beers for everyone or something. That could be a forfeit. Who knows?
I mean, to be fair, that's not a bad forfeit. To be fair, maybe they have to buy 2 rounds of drinks or something on the next draft day.
Yeah,
something like that. That would hit. That would hurt. That would hurt some of us in the pocket. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that would maybe make people turn up to the draft as well if they were thinking about staying out.
It would. It's not a bad idea. I like
that. So that's all the rules. I think I've gone through everything. Maybe I've missed a few things. If people want to clarify stuff, just put a message in the chat and we can clarify anything.
One just go over waivers for the guys so they kind of know the crack with that. Obviously, there isn't going to be many on there.
It's going to be the same as last year. People go on waivers, I think, 2 days after they played or something like that, and the waivers will go through 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. I think it was usually Wednesday and Friday, isn't it? So it's exactly the same as I tried to keep it as the same as the NFL app, so people don't forget stuff. I've even changed some of the scoring the other day just so it's exactly the same as what we had in the NFL app as well. Again, because you don't want to change up scoring. You know, your defense is getting -10 when it was 7 last year or something weird like that. So it's all the same.
Yeah, I'm just looking over here for anything else. So yeah, as Mark says, Wednesday will be when waivers clear, as previously, and then 2 days thereafter. Players that are on IR, so the COVID obviously list isn't really a thing anymore, but they're not allowed. That wouldn't be a thing. Holdout players or DNRs are not able to go on IR. Same for doubtful players not on IR. So everyone kind of knows. But players that can go on IR, ones who are officially out on IR, and suspended players are also able to go on IR. So as an example, for those who wouldn't know, Calvin Ridley last year would have been able to go on an IR list.
And that's what happened because Aaron did put him on IR, didn't he? So notable suspensions, I guess, is someone like Jameson Williams, who's going to be out for 6 games, I think, originally.
Yep.
Is Alvin Kamara, is he out half the season as well for his dodgy thing last year?
I don't think we actually know yet, do we? Have we got a resolution start?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I thought it was something.
Deciding to deck people.
Yeah. So I'm sure some of the players are going to do something dodgy in the next 3 or 4 months anyway and be suspended. So.
Well, we're still waiting on the Mixon thing, aren't we? Deciding to shoot some kids up.
Yeah, Mixon's still on his bad books. So this is going to be quite interesting actually in the draft. Who's going to take a risk on Mixon? He's a bit old. I think the Bengals drafted a running back at some point.
That's an AP pick, isn't it? Mud Dogs will be all over that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The draft's going to be interesting. So talked about the draft and people like the draft order and how it's going to be decided. No more comments. I think Ollie put in the chat about the 100-yard dash, which is that sort of like simulated draft. So it's, it's a good idea. Let's do that. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. It's all a bit of fun at the end of the day, and it's not going to matter that much. We know with the draft, if you're in 1 or you're in 12, you can still get a winning team, proved year after year. Sometimes 1's not even that good.
The only thing that I do, I totally am on board with that, and I don't want to fight anyone over it, but I think that's a great tool if we're all doing it there and then together, finding out about it at the same time. But we don't want to do that. Like, we want to find out before the draft what place we're picking. Yeah. And I was actually saving to kind of raise it on here for then kind of discussion after. Why don't we just do, like, I think you've done previously when you've done your golf one, or so for those who don't know, Mark would pick, run through a computer generated thing, give you a number, that number then correlated to a golfer or a racehorse or whatever it was, and then whatever that horse or golfer finished, it would then give you the order of what you're drafting in. I kind of just think, like, is that not a better way? Because although that simulation is great, like, are we all going to see it? Like, how does that operate? How does that work? Like, would we watch it in person at the same time? Or?
There's 2 ways you can do it, and I'm going to lean to the second way. But the first way is I can set it up, press play, and then I can share the recording with everyone. I don't like that. The second way, which is what I want to do, is set up a Zoom call, a Teams call in, say, a week or 2. Set it all up. Everyone's on Teams, Zoom, whatever. I press play, and we all watch it at the same time. I think that's going to be a bit better, because other people, if you record it, someone's going to watch it first and go, "Oh, I've got pick 5," and then everyone's like, "I was probably looking at it now." Is there? So yeah, something like that.
I think if we can get everyone together to do it, then yeah, cool, sounds good. If we can't, then I would like that we maybe have a conversation with everyone over, do we just do like what you've done in previous years and just get it done with that way? Because then it is completely random, and we can all at some point watch a race or watch a result, or I know there's quite a few guys in here into Area F1, aren't there? So maybe it's a car number or something. I don't know, but I don't know. I like the app idea. Sounds good. The simulation sounds good, but there was something really quite cool about the actual real life human beings / animals doing it for us.
You don't trust a computer, do you? That's what you're saying,
No, I don't. I don't trust anything automatic. I'm cashless, and I am fully cash man.
Don't trust
that's
the
the way
computer.
it goes.
Yeah. No, I get your point. If people aren't interested in that, they're not interested. I didn't want to do the same thing year after year, so I was trying to think of something different. But a Formula One race, I think Indy 500 is actually coming up quite soon.
Yeah, I'd be kind of up for any of that, anything like that. I think I'm keen. I would be, for me, a bit better, unless we all just suck it up and just do it live together on the draft day, and we don't get to pre-plan.
I don't like that.
I would hate, but would be fucking really funny to all be there with a round of drinks and then having to watch around a screen to see what pick we've got, and then it kicks off in 10 minutes. That would be pretty funny and pretty good.
I don't like that at all. That's me. I'm a planner. I don't like that at all.
I'll put it to a vote. Maybe there are
other
people.
We'll see. If you want to do the 100-yard dash, let us know. If you want to do the racehorse or the car race, let us know, and we can go from there. So talking about the draft, I think it's been agreed today, the date of the draft. I'm not sure if you get up to date with this, but
yes.
Friday, 2nd of June seems to be the consensus.
Yeah, sorry, I've been... Max has kept me up recently. I'm just scrolling through now. No,
it seems to have most votes when I looked. I think it was about 7 to 4 or 5 or something.
So there are 7 votes. 7 votes for that day. Is there anyone who hasn't voted by
Shane's not on there, but...
we know what Sugar's like.
He's in London, so he's not going to be in person, but as long as he can log on the date, it should be fine.
So 7 votes for that Friday the 2nd of June. The next closest is the 1st of July with 1st July and 8th of July with 5 votes, but they're both Saturdays, and we know for a fact that beef is not even slightly possible.
Yeah,
by the time
I thought Fridays would be best. People are busy on the weekends, aren't they? Friday evenings, probably going to be best. So location to be confirmed. That's probably the next thing to discuss. Obviously, like you said before, a lot of people are in Gloucester, but a lot of people aren't in Gloucester.
It's true. Life does exist outside.
We've been to Gloucester a few times to do some stuff, obviously with Aaron's last year. Maybe we can Thornbury, Bristol, somewhere else. Who knows?
Well, no, I'm keen to go wherever. I think it needs to be somewhere where the Wi-Fi we're confident with. That's an absolute must. And it needs to be somewhere where it's kind of big enough to accommodate us all, and there is alcohol on tap. They are the kind of the prerequisites of what has to happen. I have looked at so we've actually got a game on that exact day. So I've started asking the questions to see if one of the boxes is spare. So that could be quite a good crack. So for those who don't know, I work for a cricket club. So Gloucester are playing Surrey in a 50 blast match on that date. So I don't know if it's possible, probably isn't possible, but if it was, it'd be pretty fucking badass for us to be able to get in a box and we all just do it up there in one of the boxes. There's a bar just literally down the corridor. We'd have our own area and we could watch some sport as well. It would be pretty sick. Ticket sales haven't been great, so we might be available. If not, then it is what it is. But it needs to be somewhere where the Wi-Fi is good and there's going to be enough room for all of us to be in there. Because ultimately it's going to be, in theory, 12 people all on the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, without Shane. Shane's not going to be able to make it, I'm assuming. So it's 11 max, and I'm assuming some other people might not be able to make it on that date in person, especially if it's in Bristol and you're all coming away from Cheltenham or Gloucester. Yeah. So we'll see. But ideally it would be like a little private room that we could have, some food on tap, drink on tap. That'd be great, but we'll see.
I think we're all kind of keen that that we want it to be in like a public setting, right? Where rather than like someone's house.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Friday, 2nd of June. Just to go through a little things on the draft. So it's going to be rookies and vets. So it's not just a rookie draft or a vet draft. It's everyone's included. It's going to be a snake draft. So typical.
Yes.
Don't know how many minutes or seconds we get per pick at the moment. I guess that depends on how many people we get in person. That could be interesting. You've got to actually select 23 players. So it's a lot bigger than the redraft. I can't remember how many people we had in redraft. It's about 16, I want to say. It wasn't a lot at all. So 23 players. I think Ollie's made a good point as well about maybe doing 12 rounds, pausing it, and then doing another 11 or just slow rolling the rest or something like that.
I think you definitely slow roll it. How many picks do we do normally in redraft?
I think it's 15, 16, something like that.
15, 16. I think it would make the most sense to just stick to whatever that normal number is that most of the guys in the group are used to, and that is the number that we all pick from to begin with, and then slow roll it thereafter for the further picks. I think
that makes most sense, because otherwise the night's going to go on forever, and people are just going to get bored by 20. I don't know, whatever.
Exactly. And I mean, AP. Can you imagine AP trying to do that? The guy would be on the floor.
He was legless by round 4 last time, so. Yeah, he's not going to be able to cope, unfortunately, with that.
I think Matt's particularly excited to see him, isn't he? From
AP just like papers going everywhere. It's going to be hilarious.
Has he been taken?
Yes, he's gone. He went 4 rounds ago.
Loves it. Absolutely loves it.
So yeah, that's the draft. Obviously, rookie draft next year is going to be linear. So totally different. Not snake, linear next year. I'm keen for a slow rookie draft as well, because it's only going to be 5 rounds. So it could be 24 hours a pick, 5 rounds. It goes on quite a long time. That's going to go on like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah. I'm easy going. I think that, again, for me, it's just about if we want this to really kind of take off and evolve. I think trying to get the league together for those bigger occasions as much as possible makes the most sense. You know, you watch. I know Aaron particularly is addicted to the League right now, TV show. You know, and if you're kind of using that as a base, you know, there's a lot of kind of touch points together, talking about football together, blah blah blah. The WhatsApp group is great, but obviously it's just a lot of shit chat from me and one or two others. But then there's not much kind of to and back from others. So it kind of, I think where we can get more people together. And if it means the rookie draft, we see each other together and just do a couple of rounds and then have a few drinks together and then leave it at that, then slow roll it. I think that makes more sense than just going straight into a slow roll.
No, I agree. Yeah, more touch points, watching football on a Sunday together, anything like that was good fun last year.
That's what last year we did that quite a bit, didn't we? And just on a small thing like me, you and AP, and there were some really good fun nights. Just going, AP loves talking about what happened to poor Bear. I won't share it with other people, but things happen to that poor dog when one scored a touchdown. That won't be spoken about. But it just makes it a bit more kind of engaging rather than just having a particular GM ranting over the WhatsApp group for that weekend because he's pissed off.
It was a personal highlight of me seeing AP predict his team was going to win, and then I think about 30 seconds later, 2 touchdowns went down, and then he was losing. That was a personal highlight. That was great fun. The only thing I want to mention, obviously, for people who are going to listen to this, and some people might not listen to this, it's probably going to be aimed at the people who aren't going to listen to this, is that people are going to need to research this draft. And I know people will. You will, I will, Ollie, Beef, Keith, people who are into it are going to research this draft. You cannot go into this draft without knowing who the rookies are, without sort of having a game plan, because once those QBs start rolling and you're sort of sat there, I don't know, pick 7, pick 8, and you're like, Jesus Christ, 5 QBs have gone, what am I doing? You've got to research this, because if you balls up this draft, you could be ballsed up for 5 years.
Yeah, there is that. I agree completely, but would also say I won't research the amount that you'll reseach.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, you'll research what a dynasty is and what.
I think you need to know. You need to know the. Yeah. Agreed. But I wouldn't want to put somebody off with the fact of, so for someone, I'm picking a name out of the hat here, but so if we're saying Slim into his NFL, but maybe not to the same degree that say we are, he would still have ADP available for him when he's picking. So it'll come up saying this is the average ADP for this player. So he would get some form of insight that way from following the ADP. So he's not completely hung out to dry. And I think that's something that I want to. You're correct in reaffirming that it's a dynasty. It's not a redraft. So if you fuck it, you're fucked. But there will be the ADP available for you to help support you along the way when it gets to those players that you're maybe not so sure about or you don't know about. They're there to help you. ADP is average draft position for those who don't know. yeah, so that will be there. And as I say, like I will. It's the opposite of me and you, isn't it? That's why we joke about you being the ice and me being the fire. Like I'll solely go on a hunch. I will go on a guy which I've seen a bit of tape on, or I've seen a bit on. I like the potential of him. You will deep dive more into the insight of it, and you won't be happy unless you've kind of done that. I'll get almost overwhelmed if I'm seeing all these stats, and I don't want to see it. So there's acknowledgement of that kind of difference in personality as well. But you are right in if you mess it up, you messed up. And I think that brings me slightly towards a bit of like the four of the people who I think are the most heavily invested in kind of fantasy football. None of them are kind of in two leagues. And there is a bit of me that worries about for some of those ones who may be less invested and are in two leagues. Like, I want you a part of it. Like, it's 100%. But if you think that, do you know what, it's probably a bit much me, I'm not so sure. Please say now. Like, I don't want it to be a kind of case of you're just coming along because of FOMO, or you think you want a bit of it. Like, I won't get disheartened by it. I won't get upset by it, or Mark won't, or the others won't. If you decide that it's not for you, that's fine. Like, we understand that is a bit more of a commitment. We're talking about spending more time looking at players and all those sorts of things. The worst thing possible for us would be is if you kind of go, oh yeah, I want to do it, and then provide limited engagement, aren't really that interested. Team starts being shit, so you only focus on your redraft league for the small amount of interest that you give us. Like, it would just be pointless, and we'd have to then go out look for a new person altogether next year, which would be a pain in the ass. So I don't want to put people off, but if you aren't committed or you're not sure that you do want to do it, that's fine. Then we'll look to get somebody else. But hopefully everyone's involved and everyone wants to do it, and everyone's happy for this kind of next step forward. And hopefully it'll be a great draft later, and everyone will go.
Yeah, there is a bit the unknown as well. It's the unknown for most of us, except Beef and Ollie, about what it's about. And if we go through this first year and someone goes at the end of the year, you know what, that was too much. I can't be doing that. We can go out and get other people. But
100%. But I would just hope that they would then. My concern, I guess, is kind of somebody kind of having enough mid-season and then just giving up on it mid-season, and then that kind of causing issues through the league, because they've given up on it mid-season rather than say seeing it out to the end of the year. And it was one of the reasons why the buy-in was that bit higher. To be honest with you, from my perspective, I wasn't somebody who really cared about what the buy-in was, and ironically, it was actually Aaron who suggested it was 25 quid, and Aaron's now not in the league. It was actually his mindset, him who chose to make it 25 quid. I'm not considering doing that, but then when I thought about it, it made sense, because all of a sudden it made it a bit more tangible for someone kind of going, oh, I might actually want to kind of try a bit more for that, rather than, oh, fuck it, it's only a 10. I can't give a shit.
Yeah, obviously we've got a weekly prize as well. It's trying to keep people more engaged, even if you're at the bottom of the league. I think people like Jack had like a stellar week, and it's not going to be the people at the top that are going to be getting the prizes every week. So hopefully that should keep people interested. The other thing I saw on the app, the Sleeper app, we haven't spoken much about the Sleeper app, but I was talking to Will yesterday, and I was just flicking through a player, and there's depth charts on there. So another bit of research for people. If you don't know who a player is, you can click on their profile and their team, and it will show you where they are in the depth chart. If they're the starting running back, if they're number 2, number 3. So that's a really, really good piece of research that you can use going into the draft or even on draft night.
So that would be a case of you'd go onto the app, you'd press team at the top, and then you'd swipe from right to left, and then you've got the players available straight in front of you that are trading upwards. You can then press on the said player, and that would then give you further information. You've got your game log, team history, everything else on there as well, for those who are struggling.
Will did ask about potential points as well, because obviously that was a thing on the NFL app. I'm not 100% sure it's on Sleeper, but I would assume it is, because they're pretty similar, aren't they?
I would assume it is. Maybe if B for Ollie watch this, maybe they can kind of drop us a note and kind of say either way, because they'll know.
Yeah, true.
For 100%.
That's all I wanted to say on the league, the draft, or whatever. Have you got anything else? No?
No,
I haven't got anything else for this pod. I think it's been a quick sort of snippet. I know Matt's been calling for the pod, hasn't he, for about since the Super Bowl. He's been calling for a pod, basically. So, Matt, you've got your pod. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit shorter.
And we will be looking to get guests back on again going forward. Obviously, that was something we enjoyed doing during the season, and we will be doing going forward. This was for us kind of a way of getting a bit of information out, getting a bit of excitement, a bit of buzz over it again, and start talking about fantasy football and football in general. You know, because ultimately that's kind of why we play these fantasy sports, because we just like talking and engaging in football content. So yeah, we'll be getting guests on next time we do one. Hopefully we can do one maybe next week or the following week to kind of make it a bit more consistent again. And yeah, we look forward to your feedback. Obviously we've gone video this time as well. So that's a bit of a change for you. You get to see our ugly mugs. Yeah, we look forward to your feedback.
Great. I think I'm going to close it there. Thanks for that, Chris. It's been a good chat. Let's see you next time. Thanks and goodbye.